After 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, he picked me up, turned me round, he set my feet on higher ground. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee, jubilee. It gives me peace, it gives me joy, this old world cannot destroy. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee. All my life was filled with sorrow, there was not a bright tomorrow. Days were dark as night, and I could not see. Since he came to me, singing such a melody, ringing glory, hallelujah, jubilee. Well, he picked me up, he turned me round, he set my feet on higher ground. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee. Once more. Well, he picked me up, he turned me round, he set my feet on higher ground. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee, jubilee. Well, it gives me peace, it gives me joy, this old world cannot destroy. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee. All my life was filled with sorrow, there was not a bright tomorrow. Days were dark as night, the light I could not see. Since he came to me, singing such a melody, ringing glory, hallelujah, jubilee. Well, he picked me up, he turned me round, set my feet on higher ground. Glory, hallelujah, jubilee. Sounding good. If you're in the front, you didn't see Pastor Steve just walked a row too far and sat in front of Mary, and she's like, oh. Sorry, that was just too funny. All right, we'll have 207, The Lord Delivers. After 3. 1, 2, 3. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. I stand by his side, so the enemy does flee. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. I stand by his side, so the enemy does flee. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. I stand by his side, so the enemy does flee. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. And once more, no music now. That's me. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord delivers, the Lord delivers me. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. I stand by his side, so the enemy does flee. The Lord is my deliverer, and his hand protected me. I stand by his side, so the enemy does flee. Sounded cool. Let's have... Oh, we'll try a medley, just of 2 songs. We'll do number 60, Heaven's Better Than This, and number 239, which is I'm Walking Along a Heavenly Road. So Nathan, that's 60 and 239. Got it? Cool. So Heaven's Better Than This first. All right. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Heaven is better than this. Oh my, what joy and bliss. Walking down the streets of solid gold, living in a land where you never grow. Heaven is better than this. Oh my, what joy and bliss. Heaven's better than this. We'll have one more before we have a testimony from Robert. We'll have number 81. And if you take my hand, my son. After 3. 1, 2, 3. And if you take my hand, my son, all will be well when the day is done.
Hello. I gave my testimony on Sunday in North London, so sorry to anyone that's listening on Medway or the Revival meeting.org. My Auntie Sandra came along to this fellowship in Liverpool a year before I was born, and my mum didn't come along for 9 years, so I was 8 years old when I started coming along to the fellowship. But I was just thinking then, I don't remember any pattern in my life before coming along to the Lord, so essentially it feels like I grew up here. I just remember before my mum came along that I used to beg my Auntie Sandra to come along to as many things as possible. So when I was 9 years old, or was I? Yeah, 9 years old, I attended a summer camp with my family, and on the way there I was asking Mum what would happen when the Lord returns, but I knew the answer already, and I knew that if I wasn't to receive the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues and get baptized by full immersion, that I wouldn't see the Lord. So we went to that summer camp, and I had that sort of spinning around in my mind, and I was asked to go to a few Seekers meetings, and at one of the Seekers meetings I was praying and received the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, and that evening I got baptized by full immersion. So yeah, I was 9 years old at the time, and the Lord blessed me through my entire school period. Like, I don't remember ever having issues with people particularly, or standing up for the Lord, or being pulled in any particular direction. Like, I was never interested in getting involved in the worldly things that people around me got involved in, which I'm thankful for. I remember at school there was only one girl that caused a bit of trouble in year 7, and that was it. So he blessed me through my education, and I remember going to a summer camp. It was around the Devonhurst time when there was all the girls living there, and I was young. I was only maybe year 10, year 11, but I was in fellowship. I was sort of close friends with girls who were a lot older than me, and they were going to camps and going on holidays with people from fellowship. And I remember feeling so like I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. I was just desperate to get to that point, to be able to like do all those things with the girls, and I wanted to drop what I was studying and drop everything to just try and earn a bit of money to be able to go and do these things. And I remember having a little like mini breakdown at that camp with Amy Calder, saying, I just want to be able to earn money to do all the things that you guys do. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in terms of a career. So I was praying at that camp, and through a set of circumstances I started studying to be a legal secretary and got this job. And Pastor Martin was talking about evil bosses at on Sunday in his talk about Nebuchadnezzar and comparing them to him, and I was saying I can really relate, because we did have a boss who was just terrible to us, and she's now gone, but there were so many things throughout my career at this place that I thought, oh gosh, I can't get out. She made me feel so trapped that like I used to say to people, I can't leave, because she used to say openly that she wouldn't give anyone a reference if you left, sort of thing, and so you'd feel a little bit stuck. And so there was one point that I ended up sort of responding back to the way she'd spoke to us, and I said I didn't really like it, and that was a Friday afternoon, and I knew that on the Monday I wouldn't have a job to come back to, because that's how she dealt with people, and she just would... it'd be nice if she sacked me behind closed doors, but she probably would have done it in public. She's that type of person. And that was the only option to me on that Friday afternoon, that I either hand in my notice on Monday before she sacks me, or I get sacked. So I went up to the prayer line, mostly about my attitude, because I was really angry that day, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't ever want to display that in front of my colleagues. I wanted to be a good example. So I prayed about that on the Sunday, and also that I could find a new job quickly. And when I came back on the Monday, she'd driven 2 hours before 9 a.m. to come and apologise to me, and we still laugh about it now, that she was crazy enough to do that, and she'd never done that for anyone before or after. And through a set of circumstances this year, she was sort of exposed for all the things she'd been doing, and she's gone. And I just know from that summer camp of not knowing what I wanted to do to be in here now, it's just, all it is the desires of my heart. Like, the Lord didn't have to put this in my pathway. I'm sure I'd be happy doing other things as well, but I just know that he blessed my pathway in terms of a career, and I'm thankful for that. And with my dad, I feel like I say this every time, but he, for those who don't know, I didn't meet my dad till I was about 13 years old or 14 years old. I never knew anything about him before then, really. I was saying on Sunday that the only things I remember knowing about him was that there was like 2 pictures at home, that he was good at making pizza, and that his name was Ray, and that he was Scottish, and that was it. And I remember speaking to Mum about wanting to find out who he was, and I think we decided that we were going to have a few prayer and fasts and see what came of it, and we hired somebody to find him in the UK, and they just came back to say, yeah, we found his birth certificate, but he's not in the UK, and that's all we can do. Like, we can't delve outside of the UK, so that's all the information we can give you. And so we continued to have the odd prayer and fast about it. And then one day, when Facebook was fairly new, Mum was looking on their suggested friends, or it popped up next to her suggested friends, and it was my dad's brother, who she also used to work with. And so she was able to get into contact with him, who then told us my dad was in America, and we got in touch with him. And through a long story, I ended up meeting him for the first time when I was about 14 years of age, and started a relationship with him. And yeah, that was really great to think. Like, I think mostly about my school friends. Like, in between year 7 and 9, I didn't have a dad, and then from 10 till year 12, I could say how the whole situation had turned around and I had a relationship with my dad, which was all thanks to the Lord. And a couple of things I learned from that. Well, I used to find it a bit confusing when I was young that he was so like upset all the time and like sad that he'd missed out on so much of my life, because I never felt that back to him. And I think that's just because of not only the fellowship, having the family around us, but because I had the Lord. Like, I never felt like I didn't have a father. I'd never felt that there was one physically walking around with me, sort of thing, like in a natural sense. And so I'm grateful that I never felt that sort of pang. I do remember that one time in crying to Mum one evening about him wanting to know who he is so that he could walk me down the aisle one day, and it was just sort of a fleeting thought, but the Lord blessed that, and he was able to do that, which was pretty cool. And you could see the testimony of the fellowship and how I'd been brought up, which, although it was overwhelming for him, I think, you know, it was a real impact on him, and he knows that I'm in a safe environment, which is cool. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else that I could say. Oh yeah, Nan. I said this on Sunday, so I feel like I'm really repeating myself. But yeah, I felt a little bit guilty, like earlier, 2018 probably. Like, we'd been married for a little while, and I felt like I never saw my Nan a lot. And like, I could think, oh, Georgia lived with my Nan for a while when she had a Harley, and she gets to see Lauren a lot, and our Chloe lives with her now and stuff. And I used to always just think, like, oh, I don't really spend enough time with her. And anyway, in this job that I've got, we were all sitting there talking one day about how we needed a cleaner because the office was gross. And Nan cropped up, and my boss was like, yeah, Nan can do that if she wants to. And now she's the Nan of everyone in the office, like she is to all of us. And she's only supposed to come once a week, but I get to see her like 3 times a week because she just comes in all the time. And it's just nice, because it was just another thing that was in the back of my mind. And I know that it sounds coincidental, but I know that it's the Lord sort of allowing me to have that extra time with her that I wanted. So I'm grateful for that as well. Amen.
Thanks, Robin. We'll have one to finish, 464, before the talk. Just before that, I might ask Nate Staff, if you could just open in prayer for us. Thanks. Hallelujah. Praise you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Praise you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Praise you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. All right. After 2. 1, 2. As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone are my strength, my shield. Thanks, musicians. You can have a seat. And Pastor Steve for the talk. Thanks.
John chapter 15. There's a couple of, in my meanderings, there's a couple of things that really are the centre of the talk that I was thinking about. That one is joints. Okay, I want to talk about joints in your body. You've got joints, and the other allegorical thing is trees. You know, branches are joined to the trunk of trees, and both of those are scriptural types of how we work, how the world works. Actually, you find God's description of trees can explain an awful lot, and give you an insight into how things work, and sometimes what's going on. You know, really what's going on. And when you know what's going on, then you can kind of brace yourself if it's difficult, you know, and enjoy it if it's good. Both of those things are worthwhile. And the other thing is what causes pain in your joints. Okay? Some people have pain in their joints, and particularly arthritis. And arthritis is what you call an autoimmune disease, or certain types of arthritis are anyway. Autoimmune means your body's attacking itself. There's things in your body which are ready for anything evil that comes in. Sometimes it gets a bit mixed up and starts attacking that which is good, that which should be there, and it causes pain. And again, so we want to look at those. The first thing I want to look at is branches. John chapter 15, some very well-known parable, this one, or type if you like. Jesus says in verse 1, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman, the farmer, the gardener. Every branch in me that bears not fruit he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. And now you are clean through the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abides in the vine. No more can you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. So a vine is like a tree on its side, isn't it? You ever seen a vine? Not that I think I've only ever seen pictures really, but it's like a tree on its side. It's very long and big, and off it come all these branches, and off the branches come the grapes, and the grapes are good. And the branch of the vine draws off the vine. It draws all its goodness off the vine, and then produces what it does, so long as the joint is working. When Jesus is talking here, he's made us branches on that true vine, right? He's made us part of something that we weren't part of before, and without the action that took place when we were baptized and received the Holy Spirit, we would not be part of this. We might be interested in this, and we might like this. But that's not the same as being a part of this. We are a part of God's vine, you know. And through being able to draw off, that was what I was saying on Sunday. I was watching a Western, I think Friday or Saturday night. A funny old Western it was. It's just very enjoyable. The story was good, and there's one point where there's this fella, he's on the run, and he meets this lady who goes around selling stuff off her wagon. And he did that well, but he's got a foal, and the foal he thinks is sick. He thinks he's got this sick foal, and he finds this woman with a wagon, and they get on nicely, like. But she's got a burra. It's kind of a donkey. I think, did you say a burra, dear? And the foal is able to drink of the donkey's milk, right? Draw off the donkey, and he says, "Oh, it wasn't sick. It was just hungry." He was convinced that this foal was sick, and he said it wasn't sick, because as soon as it starts to draw, health is just in the colt, in the foal. And verse 16: if a man abide not in me, He is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Just to say as well, by the way, in verse 2, every branch you meet that bears not fruit, he takes away. What it really means is he'll take it to a higher place on the vine. He'll take it to he'll care for it. If it abides in him and doesn't bear fruit, he'll care for it so it will bear fruit. He'll change things round so it bears fruit. It's only the ones that don't abide in him that are cast into the fire. They dry up. You know, we've had a few windy days, and if you walk down certain roads, there's lots of branches on the floor, and they dried up on the tree. And the storm will bring them down. The storm will bring them down, and you know, they'd stop drawing from. It's an interesting thing if you think about the foal with the donkey, or if you think about the vine drawing from the branch drawing from the vine. You can't miss a bit. You can't think like, oh, I don't like that bit. Let's pass that bit and let's get the bit that comes just after that bit. It just doesn't work, you know. You know, whatever the Lord is putting your way, whatever your situation is, he'll be putting things your way, and they will be to make you fruitful. They will be to make you fruitful. As I say, there are times when he takes you up, and that'll be away from the earth. That'll be away from the earth. It's good sometimes. Sometimes we try to change our habits, don't we? If you're an Xbox fan or a phone fan, and most of the time you'll find that the next day you're an Xbox fan and a phone fan. But sometimes God blesses you, and you think, hey, I'm actually into this now. I like it. But it was a blessing and not an effort. You can make an effort. I'm not saying not to. But the best ones is when God does it, and he does. And he will. In verse 7 it says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, so shall you be my disciples. And just in verse 12, the whole chapter is all about the same thing really. It says, this is my commandment, that you'll love one another as I have loved you. So this little allegory type, if you like, I never get those things right. Listening to a talk last week when I was going up to Liverpool, Pastor Mark Watcher's done a series of talk on Revelation, and he reads the same things that I read, so I thought I'd listen. And one of them was about symbols in Revelation, and it was very good. Very, very good. I absolutely loved it. But he explains what's a type and what's a parable, and very easily as well. Anyway, so there you've got the type that we are as individuals. It'll say in another place, grafted onto this vine. You know, because you can graft a branch onto a vine. That's why you've got wine in Australia, wine in South Africa, wine in South America is actually French, because they take branches and they graft them on so you can make French wine in Australia. It has the same name often, Cabernet Sauvignon and all this. You want to sound posh and get drunk and be sick down the toilet. That's a lot of fun, isn't it? But the thing with that type is it's to do with us as individuals. So that's us as individuals connected to the Lord. That's what we are, right? That's the situation. And but we are also connected to each other. Now this one doesn't really cover it very well. So there are others in the Bible. Ephesians chapter 4. This is one. There's a few. Many. There are many really. Maybe it's called a metaphor. I did read about all those things once, metaphors and allegories and the differences, and I quite liked it, but I can't remember it. It was years ago. Yes. So here the type is a body. Okay, so as a vine is one really, the branches and the trunk are one, doing one job, all part of one thing. So is the body, and this is talking about there's two ways of looking at the body. You've got your own body, and you've got the church as a body. You know, a body's corporation. The council used to be called the corporations, didn't it? Work for the corpy, and corporation just means a body. That's a system of which is one, and that's corporation was a system of local government. It still is. Ephesians 4 and verse 14. It's just picking it up in the middle of something. It says that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. You need to be aware that there are things set quietly to catch it out. And sometimes you might find your foot's in there when you wake up and you think, hang on, what have I got my foot in here? You know, and then you have to be honest with yourself about that and get out of it. In verse 15 it says, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplies, according to the effectual working of the measure of every part, makes increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. Now, there's a lot of words in that, but it's a very, very good verses. This is what got me into the talk, this thing of every joint supplies. And you can think about in your body, you've got joints, the obvious ones, but your whole body is joint. You know, they used to say, I think they stopped saying it now, they changed to something else, you only use 10% of your brain. And you think, well, which 90% would you like me to take away? And you think you'll be the same. It's nonsense. You don't only use 10% of your brain. Which one of your veins and which one of your nerves and which one of your sinews would you be better off or no different without? Every part supplies. Every part is a part of being compact. Otherwise, you know, if it wasn't for your sinews, I'd just flop on the floor now into a big lump of jelly. Yes, fitly joined together. God has designed it, and he knew what he was doing. Every joint supplies according to the effectual working, according to the energy that's in it. So some things, if you think some things in your body never sleep. Your heart doesn't sleep. From the day more or less conceived, not quite the day you conceived, to the day, you know, the last tick of the clock, if you like, your heart beats, right? And that's a part of the body. You could say that's of the Lord, that's not of us. You know, nobody is going to be 24 hours 7 working for the Lord. There are some parts that are busier than other parts. The parts are different, and you've got lots of systems. I was talking Sunday about different systems to do with morality, to keep yourself on a straight and narrow. But you've also got systems in your body according to what's going on. You know, if you think about the church, also you can have a cooling system. In the summer, dogs have a cooling system. They go, and horses have a different one. And in the fellowship too, there'll be a cooling system. There'll be people who are cool. Often mentioned in 1995, the fellowship went through a baffling storm. You know, I know what the word baffling means, and it was like that. And you know, there was disturbance really, and we had a guy, and I was in the fellowship in South London there, and the assembly there, and there was a guy there, and they said, well, you've been around for a long time, he's Australian. People have heard of a pastor called Jack Clay. I've never heard him. But I heard a lot about him. And he was married to his daughter, happily married to his daughter. He had a couple of kids. He worked for Ford's in Dagenham. He worked in Essex anyway. He designed the inside of Ford cars. Him and there's a fellow called Gear, who's on the back of the car. Well, they were mates. He knew Gear. Gear was a designer. So anyway, I got to know him a little bit, and I said, what do you think about this particular problem in the fellowship? He said, well, I pray about it. He said, and if God can't do anything about it, he said, I don't worry about it. I thought, I want to sit next to you. Because he was cool. He was cool, and because he was cool, I, without knowing anything, he didn't tell me anything particularly. He didn't he just cooled the situation down. There's lots of people like that. There's people under a lot of pressure sometimes, and you wouldn't know it, because they're cool as cucumbers. When you think about what's happening in their day, you think, gosh, that's quite a bit. But because they're cool, that encourages me. You know, every joint supplies. We have an alarm system in our body. Sometimes it's the eye. Okay, so one part of the body affects the rest. If you see a spider, you like seeing a spider? I have one. Eek! So the eye sees the spider, and the rest of the body is affected by what the eye sees. That's actually important, you know. We're made that way. Sometimes stress or anxiety somebody was telling me, I mentioned anxiety in the summer camp, and somebody said, well, you've got to be anxious sometimes. So I do know that. Fight or flight. If you weren't anxious, then the spider would come and just sit on you, basically. They don't do not. You haven't got no teeth. And but in our nature, there's a system which makes us alarmed because we might need to leg it, basically. We might need to run. And that system is very energetic, right? But it gets the energy from every other part of your system. You can't live like that. You cannot live like that. It'll kill you, one way or another. That's what I was watching a YouTube video of a fella a couple of years ago, and he was talking about people with their jobs in America. He said, your jobs are killing you. Because they go home, you know, all like this, or overburdened and overcooked. And sometimes, you know, the more I look at it, the more I think people mostly can only oppress you if you let them. Right? I know it might be hard not to, right? But if you're living under stress and tension and not, you know, anyway, that's another thing. So, effectual or energized working of every part. So every part can be energized. It's not, I'll show you in a minute, the different parts do different jobs. You can only do your part. You know that? You know, it's no good having a knee that beats all night, is it? You'd never be able to sleep. Every part does its own part, and it's a harmonious thing. Your body is a harmonious thing. The great Will I Am on Saturday, he came out with a couple of good things. I was thinking about his song, Where Is the Love? I think that's all right, Will, if you mean it. Because the words are good in the song. He sings, Father, 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 help us. Send a message from above. People got me wondering, where is the love? And you think, that's okay, Will, if there's energy in those words, mate. And if there isn't, then it's a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. Right? But he said a good thing. He was, they have I'm not a total fan of The Voice. I sit there watching a little bit and being cynical about some parts, because Marion watches it, you see. So I have my cynical moments. And but there was a couple of people, they have battles. That's just strange. And often, well, 50% of them try too hard. And Will I Am was saying, when it comes to harmony, effort is not attractive. Effort is not attractive. And he was telling them, you're trying too hard and you actually put people off. It's not harmonious anymore because of the effort. You know, he's saying, just do what you're good at. Just come back to what you're good at. But they're under unnatural pressure. That's my phone. Okay, that's right. You know, edifying itself in love, and it's more important to do things that are effective than to use the word. It can be easy to use the word or difficult depending on how you grew up. I was mentioning the other week I was watching Chaz and Dave. Which one died? Did Chaz die or Dave die? Chaz died. So anyway, and somebody says, "Oh, your songs were a little bit hard on the women." Like they sing songs, rabbit, 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 rabbit. You don't go on about his wife, and he says, he said, we do love our wives. He said, but we find it hard to say it. You know, but they did love their wives because they still had them. So they weren't so much into saying it. They were more in, but whatever they did, kept it. And you think, that's the one you want. The other one can be okay. But, you know, sometimes looking for a way to say something is not so important. In verse 17 there it says, this I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that you henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their mind. You know, this comes back to the first thing of being connected to the vine and drawing off the vine. You know, people, I usually avoid it 99 times out of 100. I avoid debates on the TV because people are telling you what they think and not what they know. Right? And you know, there's a thing. Sometimes people do know a few things, and you think, oh, well, that's interesting. But it'll be knowledge and not opinion that makes you interested. There's a saying that things need to be more light than heat. It's easy to be heated, you know, to be impassioned about something, but we want light, and you know, you can get overheated and then you need to cool down. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Keeping on with the same thing of likening us to a body. As I say, it's important also to realise that you know, there'll be some things that when we're all together, and there's some things, you know, when you're on your own, you know what I mean, and both are well, you're on your own more than you are together. So yeah, that's very important. So here he's talking about Paul's writing to the Corinthians, which is actually slightly a dysfunctional church. It's slightly dysfunctional. In fact, in chapter 14, he says, you come together for the worse. Right? You come together as things are for the worse. So he's putting things right. And the other thing is, some things aren't for the worse. So there's reasons for that. And then some things are just a little bit wacky. So basically, he sobers all that up to make it more sensible. And that's not why it was for the worse, because they were doing things out of order. It was the energy was negative. The energy was a negative. You can get no energy. You know, it talks about the edifying of itself together. Effectual working, energetic working. You can get negative energy. You know, you could be critical of each other in the wrong way at the wrong time. And you know, one thing it comes up in this chapter, and it's actually a common error, is that people are trying to make other people like them. Right? That's not God's design. It's just not. I used to work in the school. I know I tell these stories all the time, but I like them. Where the deputy headmaster, he put on the board, very nice school, very smart school. He put on the board, he told the teachers off. He said, stop telling the kids off for not being like you. Right, and he was an interesting guy, because he was a bachelor, and his life was that school. You know, not to a ridiculous extent, but to a very, he cared. So I always remember it anyway. So in verse 6, this is talking about the church together, which is important, because in this chapter is the verse that says, "Do all speak in tongues." Okay, so you have to understand a little bit the context, and I just want to back that one away on the way through. Not that it's a doctrinal talk in that sense. Verse 6, and there are diversities of operations, but it's the same God which works all in all. So before you get lost in the chapter, in the detail, let's come back and let's see what the chapter's about. The chapter is about the gifts of the Spirit in the people in the church. All the gifts in all the people. God works all the gifts in all the people. That's what it says, you know. So in verse 7 there it says, but the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, tongues, interpretation of tongues. But all these works that one and the selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. So it's basically saying that the Lord, the Holy Spirit, is deciding kind of who's doing what, who's willing, who's able. No good being willing and not able. That's not your part. It's no good being willing and not appointed. That's not your part. That won't work, right? The thing about tongues, just in that one, in verse 9 it says, to another faith by the same Spirit. And the argument is because it says to another tongues, it means that only some people speak in tongues. But if you interpret it like that, then only some people are given faith. Well, that, excuse me, is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And most people, when you show them that, can often, because they've usually been taught that as a doctrine and never really, because it's quite a complicated chapter in some ways. So it's talking about the people when they're together, and you know, without going too far into that, because I haven't got time. And but he divides to every man severally as he will. In verse 12 it says, for as the body is one and has many members, and all are members of one body, being many are one body. So that sounds strange, doesn't it? So also is Christ. You get the idea. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, whether we be Jew or Gentile, whether we be bond or free, and have all been made to drink of that one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. If the foot shall say, because I am not of the hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, therefore is it not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? But now God has set the members, every one of them, in the body as it's pleased him. And I'll carry on with that in a minute, just a few more verses of that. Not everyone has the same job. You know, what's the point of being a good cook if nobody eats the dinner? You know, the Lord needs speakers, but he really needs hearers too. You know, so it depends on what's going on at the time. You know, when I'm not here, I'm there, right? And I want to be there and not here when I'm there. There are some jobs which only some people do, right? If it's down to me, there'd be no music, because I can't play. I cannot play a note. I cannot do that job. Now, what if I decide I really, really, really want to be a musician? I really want to play the music, and I'm really going to try. Well, the fact is, I'll make it worse. If I sat there with them, no matter what my intent was, that's not what I'm appointed to. That's not the job I'm given. I will make it worse. Right? And the part of your body aren't making a great effort to do their job. They just do their job. They're set there. So, as I say, some are more active. You know, there are jobs that are set for different people. Just one back as well, by the way, with the vine, and we are the branches. Nobody is a branch off a branch. Right? Pastor Peter has a saying that God only has children, he doesn't have grandchildren. So everybody is fitted to the vine the same way that everybody else is, though we have different roles. You know, there are different roles for men and women. You know, a pastor must be the husband of one wife. He doesn't have to be married, but he can't have more than one wife, right? He's a man. That's what the Bible says. Now, people that will come out with something different are not drawing from the vine, and the fruit that they bring will not be the fruit of the vine, because they are not drawing from the vine. You know, at work there are different roles. You know, Robin was saying about having an evil boss, and you know, that's not very good. But you know, there are some places where you go. I worked with a guy once on a building site, and he did what he liked. He worked quite hard, actually. He did what he liked. I remember the foreman getting really annoyed with him because he cleaned something up, and we were building a shopping centre, and he cleaned up this room which is by the canteen. Everyone used to chuck their cups and their sandwich wrappers in it as they walked past. Just chuck it in, and he cleaned it up. And the boss was angry. He said, "What's the matter with you?" He says, "I never asked him to do that. I never asked him to do that, and now he'll throw the rubbish everywhere else." You know, and if you do somebody else's job, right, they'll get annoyed with you. You will cause pain in the joint. You will cause pain in the joint, and eventually they'll let you know in no uncertain terms that that's not on. You know, there is a structure, and in verse 19, I know it's a bit wordy, but it's good. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now that they are members, yet one body, and the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble and necessary. When it says you can't say I have no need of you, you can say it, but it isn't true. You know, there's an earlier verse in this chapter where, or around this place, it's not in this chapter, I don't think, where I think it's 14, where Paul says, no man can call Jesus Lord except for by the Holy Spirit, right? Well, if you're going to be pedantic, word for word, that's not true. People can say that. but there's no life in those words, because it isn't. It's ineffective. It's just ineffective, being not true. And now it's saying that you can't say that they have no need of you. And Adolf Hitler wanted to make a master race. Everybody perfect. Everybody perfect. Everybody looking good. Everybody up in a line. He has a thing towards the end of it. The Hitler Youth. These perfect men, young men. And when the war was over, they found out they knew nothing. Apart from him telling them how great they were, which they weren't, right? And they believed it. At the end of the war, they found the thickest people you could find were these people, because they were looking for this kind of something that looked perfect. And here it talks about feeble. In verse, in a family, you can think of a bit like trees like a family. You can have a family tree. If you've got a family of more than one, you will find out how different children are. And it's not that one is less or one is more. They are different, and that is that. Right? And if you try to make them the same, you will spoil what should be developed and allowed to develop. It's the same here. It's saying, and those members of the body which we think to be less honourable in 23, upon those we bestow more abundant honour, and our uncommonly parts have more abundant cleanness. I should have cut the verses down. In verse 25, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have same care one for another, and whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it, or one member be honoured, all the members rejoice with it. One member suffer, that's okay if people are going through difficulty, and all our prayers are there and our hearts are there. But I just made a little note, don't be a pain. Don't be a pain. There was a brother in another fellowship years ago, many years ago now, and he was a pain. Right, and he used to go around saying, because they were kind to him, but he was difficult. And he said, I've been told to obey the Lord, not me brothers and sisters. He kept repeating that, and but he brought pain to the body. With this idea that, yes. When this was written, half of the people in this church, there's difference now. We live in the richest age that's ever been. Who hasn't got a phone, a fridge, central heating, hot water? Some of these people would have been totally illiterate. Totally illicit, maybe a little bit smelly. No teeth. That just goes back 20 years when you find people with hardly any teeth. That was normal. Now these days, everyone's got a full set of teeth, even if they haven't. So it's easier these days. And if one be honoured, we saw that on Sunday. People being brave to give their testimony. And when one part just plays their simple part, the thing they've been asked to do, and just to do it right, how everybody is uplifted, and it's that simple. Here he's talking about somebody saying, look, everyone should be like me, everyone should be the eye, everyone should be the mouth. And he's saying that's not right. That's not right. And as I say, even though it's a common error. What you want is to be doing the right thing with energy, just bringing the good. Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Just back to the trees. So, that's the body. We can be likened to trees in two ways, really. One is as a fellowship, and the other one is simply as ourselves. Song of Solomon, we don't go here very often, do we? There's a woman and a man. Okay, and in verse 1, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. It's talking about the church in the second one. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. And the lily is a lily among thorns. This is a stupid world, a world that's got more than it's ever had by 1,000,000 miles, right? And doesn't know where it came from. In fact, turns on the thing that it came from and sticks spikes in it and thorns in it, and tells you how bad it was, the thing that brought it to this, especially in the Western world. Well, the Western world is what I'm talking about. And but the tree, because in verse 3 she's talking about him as the apple tree among the trees of the wood. So it's a fruitful tree. And one of the interesting things about trees in the Bible are used in lots of different ways. People know in Mark, Luke, and Matthew, it talks about the fig tree, that Jesus cursed the fig tree, and that represents the nation of Israel. And then he said, behold the fig tree and all the trees, when they start to show new life, time's running out. Time is winding up. Put your life in order. It's a song. Very good song, actually. What's her name? Ruby Turner. Boogie Woogie Gospel. Boogie Woogie Gospel music. Sorry. So trees can represent nations. And that's interesting, because there are fruitful nations, and there are other nations that are not so. Matthew chapter 7. Verse 15, it says, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. And it talks about false prophets, people with false doctrines, claiming to be either of God or the way to go. Take a chance and mention one. Feminism. If you want to find thorns, you go there. And they will tell you that the world in the past has robbed them and done all this, and now they need to be up in arms. Well, in the Western world, it's always been that in the Protestant world, it's always been that's where they'll be the best treated from Israel onwards, because the Protestant world is of the stock of Israel. That's what it's of the stock of. It's easy to show that in the Bible. Grapes of thorns or figs of thistles. With thorns and thistles, there can be little bits of fruit in there, but getting there, you know what I mean? It's spiky, mate. It's spiky. And I was in London yesterday, and I found there's a Freemasons museum. Now, I don't know much about Freemasons. I've heard they're a bit dodgy, but I don't know a lot about them. So I went in this museum, and funny place. And then I asked, they have a meeting hall set up, and in the corner they had an organ. So I said to the guy, I said, what do they actually sing? What do they sing? He said, well, in the end, he said they always end up with the national anthem, and earlier on they sing a couple of odes. I said, well, what kind of odes? And I tell you what, I think it's called passive aggression. This guy, and he wasn't like passing by. That was his job, to be mine host, and he was a bit sinister. I think, right, all right. I still don't know that much about Freemasonry, but I tell you what, it's not good. The thing is as well, like there was a load of people in there with all wear funny dresses, funny clothes. They're a bit of a funny mob, and they had a little because it's the museum's only a part of the building, and a beautiful building. And he had these thing where he in a room and he were presenting people with great big charity checks. You know the way they do, a load of them. The Boy Scout, the nurse, and all this. And you think it's still counterfeit. you know. We live in a country that's never had it so good, right? What is the root of all that? Where does all that come from? If you follow things, one thing that often gets mentioned when you get to people who know what they're talking about is a Judeo-Christian tradition, which means the laws come from the Lord of God. That's what it means. The laws come from the Lord of God. And because of that, down the years, we have been strengthened, and everybody wants to live here. You know, trees that don't bear fruit. There is a system, it's kind of died now, communism. It went from about 1910 to 1990, killed 100 million people. Wikipedia, right? Trying to do the right thing without the knowledge of God. If you look up the Cultural Revolution in China, which even they admit was because there was a drought as well. 70% was their fault and 30% was the drought's fault. That means it was 90-10. That killed about 30 million people. You know, trees that people don't want to be a part of. If you think of Islamic countries, you know, what's the fruit? And people want to get away. Ex-communist countries, I don't know if it's Lithuania or Latvia, in the last 20 years, 20% of the population have left. They've left. The nation is a tree, but the roots, yes. One nation that you should know about, it's mentioned in the Bible and it hasn't gone away in a spiritual or physical form, is Babylon. Babylon also was likened to a tree. Nebuchadnezzar was likened to a tree. And unlike the other trees, it would be a thing where people would dwell in the branches of it. It's quite interesting, but it still exists naturally and spiritually. Let's have a little bit more. Yeah, I suppose the point of the national thing really is autoimmune diseases are when people start to attack their own joints, and there's pain. With the national thing, you know, people are saying our roots are evil. You know, we've come from a bad place, we've come from a corrupt place. And you think, well, you bring pain to your own body. It's autoimmune. I'll leave it there. I just have a bit more, but I'm going too long. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Amen. Okay, we'll have a prayer line now. If you want to pray about anything, if you come forward or backwards. Oh, the gifts, yeah. I forgot the thing as well, didn't I? Yeah. You've got to bring energy to every part, right? And I don't know what's going on in our house, but on my side of the room is my stuff, and on Marion's side of the room is Marion's stuff. Okay? Not by diktat, it's just the way it is. But this morning, I woke up, and on my side is this. And I think it's called small talk, which I can't do that. And you put it on your hair to energize it, to bring life to it. So I think it's inspired for the talk, but it's also a thickifier. I'll leave it there. Right. Okay, should we stand up? We want to operate the spiritual gifts. Praise the Lord.
Are you reading your Bible?
backwards, we will pray with you. Amen. Okay, chorus to finish with, Robin. Me and my house. Yeah, just saying about energy to every part. It's the energy that's in the music is very good here. And when I went to see Josh, the footballer that was coming, he plays for Bolton now, so he lives up north. He was saying about how he used to find the meetings, and he said it was intense. He said from the minute you sat down to the minute you went, he said, don't mean that in a bad way. He said it was. I said, well, it was alive. He said, that's right. But that's how he found it. You know, coming in here and people playing their part and a good conversation with him. I hope he grows. You know what I mean? So that was good. But I like that. Toby, you just close in prayer for us, please. Lord. Okay, after 4, 1, announcements. I've got no reason to be tired. Yes, Saturday we've got 7 o'clock here. We've got a couple of short talks. We'll just keep it to a couple so the guys know that they don't have to absolutely race through it. You know what I mean? To fit people in. Although the idea is that this about 15 minutes, something like that. Anyway, Iceman's will be Andy. Then on that night. We can go quite a while. The dinner night, that's going to be Greek. Details to follow. Day out in Kent, we need a venue for that. We did have later in the calendar, we've got In Concert with Jerry Collins. Jerry in Concert. That was going to be the week before the London Convention. But we now need to move that, I think, to the 16th of June at the moment. Because we as a family are going to a wedding that weekend and we've forgotten. So I think, yeah, but pencil in the 16th of June unless somebody knows something different. Some things have to be changed every 5 minutes. But somebody else's fault, it's not mine. All right. Yes? Okay, after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.